spiritual being, to God, so we can do our opening prayer with gratitude in our hearts. Dear with Jesus, Lord, we open our hearts, minds, souls to worship. We thank you that we're here together with our family to embrace tonight's lecture with our friend Lina. Help her, inspire her, so she can give her best, so we can all absorb and learn and take with us in our journey. We ask all these in the beautiful name of Jesus. Please turn the lights. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you, our online viewers, to watch us, and welcome to our home. And please, let's welcome Lina for my lecture.
Welcome. Tonight we are going to ask for guidance and inspiration so we can address the questions of most people, right? And may we be open to understand the lessons that are being shared with us. Does anybody need help with translation? I think we already have one there. If anybody else needs the videos for the translation, we are now distributing them. So this study tonight, we started doing this when on Sundays. Here you guys are all invited. We have our English classes on Spiritism every Sunday from 9:30 to 11, and we are now studying the Spirit's book. We have, but the Spirit's book was the first one that Kardec published, and it's a book of questions and answers divided in 4 parts. The first part is going to talk about God and all the primary cause of everything. And we are now studying the second part, part 2, which is the study about the life and the spiritual world. And this choice of trials is one little part of this chapter, the spirit life. So just to situate us where this study came from, the Spirit's book from Allan Kardec, part 2, the spirit world, or the world of the spirits, chapter 5, chapter 6. Some translations are chapter 5, but if you look there, spirit life, that's where we are. And one of them is going to talk about choice of trials. Okay? To understand this choice of trials, first we have to understand what are trials, right? What are these trials that we are going through once we come to this physical dimension? And what do they mean? When do we choose them? And how do we choose them? That's what Kardec is going to ask the spirits, and we're going to check their answers. But before we go there, I would like to talk a little bit about evolution. And this is the chapter before, a few chapters before in the Spirit's book. So Kardec says that the Spirit's evolution, it happens in a spiral, in an ascendant spiral. So there is a law of progress that the Spirit is constantly getting better. So the Spirit the one that you are today is your best version. Is the most upgraded, the last version, the best one. So we were here during Sandra's class earlier today, And she was saying, she was telling us, if you want to know who you were before the past, your prior life, you were you, who you are today, a little bit worse. So, the last version of ourselves, right? But Kardec is going to tell us that evolution happens in this spiral ascendant way. Well, when we look from, let's imagine from a high spirit, a pure spirit, let's just take Jesus, right, as our master, as our model, as our guide. When we look the evolution of a spirit from his point of view, it will probably something beautiful like this, right? All plain, because he's looking from all this distance. So from the distance, all this, in reality, our lives, if we are going to see in a smaller scale, it will probably be something like, we're going to discuss life, right? In life, we have one dimension that is spiritual, where we don't have a body. We call it we are discarnate. And we have a dimension on this bottom portion of the line, which I'm going to call the physical dimension. Okay? Even when we are here in the physical dimension, we still have a portion of us that is the spirit, right? And it's constant, and it's immortal. The body will stay here. Again, our life is not as pretty as that. The right timing, the right size. So it's probably more like this. Sometimes we spend more time here in the physical dimension. Sometimes we spend less time, right? Sometimes we live to be 100. Sometimes we live to be 1, a few hours, right? Same thing on the other side. Sometimes we spend more time on the other side, sometimes less. Now, the time that we is not the time that we spend in one side or the other is not symmetrical like the first one, right? I may have one long physical life, get to the other side, spend a few months there, and come back, or the other way. Understood? Well, now we are going to pick just as a moment in life, right, where we are preparing to come back. We are in the spiritual realm. And then this something or someone that loves us unconditionally comes to us and says, it's time to go back. It's time to go back to the physical world. So this is the time when the choice of trials start. But the spirits are going to say, the spirit will choose its trials, the trials that he's going to go through during the next life, the next incarnation, according to what? According to the evolution, the time where the spirit is, right? So all this will happen according to where we are in the spiral. So Kardec is going to tell, the spirits are going to tell us that we are all created. We are all in this errant state. We are trying to figure out how are we going to live our next incarnation, depending on where we are in this spiral. Well, do we choose all the details from our next life? I'm going to be born at 7 o'clock, December 23rd, in this place. No, no. The Spirit chooses the kinds of the bigger size, right? Depending on where the Spirit is in this spiral, the more he can say about what he wants or what he's going to be. Agree? If I was just created, I was created simple and ignorant. That's how we all were created. That's what they said. There is an equality. We all start from the same place. There is no privilege. The love is the same for everybody. And the work is going to pertain to everybody as well, right? So depending on where I am, the less evolved the spirit. So I'm all the way in the bottom, right? It will be compensated. I know very little, right? My power is very little. So this is going to be compensated with more guidance. There's going to be a spirit telling me where to go, where to be born, what I'm going to do, and the last choices I will have. Like a child, like a baby, right? Where the mother brings, the mother feeds them, carries them to where they need to go. There's very little that we can say on it. So we are probably still learning to survive, right? Our survival skills deal with heat, cold, find a cave, right? Now, as we evolve in the spirit in our lives, right? We come here, now we are on the bottom size, on the physical dimension, physical world. I have a body. So let's examine now what happens in this physical plane. Now, one thing that we have to understand is in the physical dimension, in the spiritual dimension, we have a greater view of life. As a spirit, in the spiritual dimension, there's no bills to pay. There is no daily work, going to work, feeding yourself, eating 3 times a day. That is, forget it. You're not going to have the steak there. You're not going to have the breakfast, lunch, dinner time. Okay? There's less, and the vision is like, you're not worried about your career. You're not worried about your titles. You're not worried about your belongings, right? What are we worried about as spirits? Getting better, right? How do I grow faster? How do I become a better person? How can I love more? How can I get rid of this selfishness, pride, right? As a spirit, we are not worried about cleaning the house or my clothes that don't fit on me anymore. I need a new wardrobe. These worries are, as a spirit, I'm not worried about, am I sick? Or is my body sick, right? You don't have a body that's going to be sick. Of course, the illness many times can be in the spirit. It will start in the spirit, in our minds. But you will not be worried about getting old. Am I pretty? Does this fit well? So the vision is a lot larger, right? It has a bigger vision of life. But when we arrive here, there's something very strange. We lose our memory. And as we get closer to as you guys get closer to my age, you're going to see that you're going to lose your memory again. But we lose the memory. So all that great vision that I had, I want to take care of this problem of selfishness that I have, talking about people gossiping. No, this doesn't fit on me anymore. We forget these things, right? And then all of a sudden we are on the paying bills, getting home. I have to cook, I have to clean, I have to wash, I have to. Sometimes we get trapped in our daily chores and we forget about this bigger vision that we came with. Then we arrive here and we want life to be easy like that on the top. Oh, it's going to be fine. Everything has to be great. Everything has to happen at the right time. I don't take people crossing my way on my way to work. I don't take people not disliking my ideas. Right? We want everything easy like that. And then life happens how? The bottom. Now, when we see those big downs, those big upside bumps, right? These are the trials that we chose before, but we forgot. And then we get there in the middle of this heat, right? Everybody throwing stones at us. And we think that what we really wanted was that straight line. Now, the trials start happening as we start our physical life, right? Now, funny thing is they come in a package. Remember that we talked about that we don't choose all the details? Yes, but the trials come in package. It's a kit. So I want to get married, but the husband or the wife, they come with the in-laws. But I already had my brothers and sisters, my parents. I didn't need the, yes, it comes in the package. I want to go through the experience of motherhood. So you have that beautiful baby, but it cries every night. Every 3 hours, I have to get up, feed. I spent 8 months that I don't have a night's sleep. It's part of the package, right? So we forget that these trials and these details, this part of the package, it changes how. So we chose this general trial, right? And as we react or as we take action upon these trials, the details will be falling in place, right? Right? So they say the more resilient, the more patient, the more tolerant, the more resignation we have towards what's happening, these trials that are happening to us, the faster we get out, right? As we rebel against them, as we revolt against them, as we resist, it starts what? We start feeling the pain. We start feeling that that doesn't belong, right? And then sometimes we know that we are going to have this path that's going to be a little bit harder. Why do we choose a harder path by all means? It's just because that would be the best way for us to overcome or to harmonize or to put back in place something that we took out, right? And think about somebody that had this vice of robbery. And I'm trying to overcome this. Where is this person going to be put at? In a place where he or she is going to have the opportunity to do it, right? If I decide I'm not going to do it anymore, if I'm placed in in one family or in one situation that is not going to test me ever, how am I going to know that I overcame this problem? So if you ask for patience, probably things are going to happen in your life that will test it, right? It's going to be somebody that's going to say something that you don't like. It's going to do something that is going to take you out of your balance. How are you going to develop this skill or this virtue? Now, sometimes we are in the middle of the water there, and we quit. Yes? No? Or sometimes we decide, God, I know better. I know better what's best for me. And we try to deviate from the fastest way, and sometimes we get hurt. If every time we deviate from the law, there will be a mechanism called pain that will bring us back. So it's not a punishment, but it is a message. There is something in your life that we need to change, right? Now, we were given a model, we were given a guide. So remember in the beginning, when we were at the bottom of the spiral, we had a lot of guidance. As the spirit evolves, as we grow, we start going through experiences, many lives, many incarnations. We go through the phase of excuses, right? Like a child. We go through phases of, this is mine. If I look at it, it's mine. If I think this is mine, it's mine. You have that mine phase. The spirit, too, has this phase, right? The spirit has the phase of excuses. And we grow to the point where we start assuming responsibilities. When the spirit, I don't know if you guys went to Miami to the convention, or if you watched some of the lectures. They talked a lot about duty, justice, right? First, we do what we have to do. So one of the first things when the spirits awakes is knowing what we have to do. The more we know what we have to do, and the more we do what we have to do, right? Responsibility, the more we grow, the more is given to us, the more we learn. And then Kardec has this saying, right? Not Kardec, but it's the Spirit of Truth is going to tell us, Spiritists, what? There are two wings to God. One is wisdom, the other is love. You need both. You need both wings. We need both wings to grow, to get to a higher place, right? And when we look at the model and guide that we have in Jesus, what was his life like? He was probably the person who had the most power, right? In terms of knowledge and love, manipulating all the matter that we have here, having the knowledge to manipulate it. Didn't he transform water into wine? What was it? Total control of chemistry, no? So one person with this type of power, can you imagine if we had this power, we wouldn't have any water left in the planet. It would all be wine, right? But he had this power, he had this knowledge, and still, every time, what was he telling us? It is my Father's will that this happen. I am here to do my Father's will, our Father's will. I am hungry to do what? What I want? It's always been my Father's will. So one person with total freedom, because he was in communion with God, right? In constant communion and doing what? What he wanted, doing what he had to do according to a higher, much, much higher will, right? So the more we know and love, the more freedom we will have. Now, remember that love respects the other person's time. So the more you love, the more you will allow the other one to grow, the more you will allow them to make their mistakes, to have their moments of misunderstandings, right? How are we gonna grow if we don't, how are we gonna learn to swim if we don't have the water there? Can you imagine if you had a game where you started and you had 100% certainty that you were going to win? Basketball, for example. Would you ever practice? You know you're going to win no matter what. Are you going to get better? Are you going to try more if you have 100% certainty that you're going to win no matter what? We stay home and watch TV. No, we eat until we can't anymore because we're going to win. Why bother? We do not get better without resistance. We do not get better without practice. We don't get better until we are put in a fire. You're never going to know how strong you are until you go through a moment of need, pain, right? So these choices of trials, we said, the spirits are going to tell us they are done. We do them according to what we misplaced in the prior lives, what I took out of place and I have to come back and put it back, and what is the fastest way for me to advance. So God is very economical. It's always going to be the least amount of pain and the fastest advancement that we can get with the most love and with 100% of mercy. So if it's hurting now, you can be assured that it's the smallest pain that it could be. So some here may come choosing poverty, the trial of poverty, right? I have to learn to deal with lack of resources. I have to learn to deal with discipline. I have to organize myself, save, right? And others may come with the trial of rich and power. We think it's easier, right? We think it's easy to come with a lot of money, a lot of power, but we don't realize how dangerous it can be. Being able to do whatever you can with whatever cost it is, going wherever you want. So abuse is very easy to happen there. Misuse is very easy to happen there. Allowing our vices to come out, very easy to happen there. You see how dangerous it can be. So all these are different choices of trials that we can have. in between all the thousands, all the billions, right? We are 8 billion spirits, we are 8 billion stories here. Each one knows how you got here, and the story will be different for each one of us. But after each existence, the spirit looks back, right? We look back, even us, at the moment that we are in time, we look back and we see what we've done, who we touched, who we met, right? We see the steps taken, and then we understand what we still lack, and the spirit willingly submit to all vicissitudes of physical life that will help them arrive there quickly. This is with the greater vision of the spirit, right? We hear different story. So I always, and Kardec puts this in one of his books, that when a person looks from the top of the mountain, all the ways that you can get there, right? You will see from the top all the obstacles. You can see the shortest way. You can see the less dangerous. You can see the prettier, right? You can see people going, you are here from the top, you can see people going around the bottom, around, getting to the same place. And they go around, get to the same place. Or you can see people just jumping up or climbing up in one straight line, right? Kardec put this image for us. So there are many ways to climb the mountain. The top of the mountain is the goal. We're going to get there. We all are. Some of us will take longer ways. Like Arthur said on his lecture, for some of us, the ways are going to, the eternities will be longer. Right? For some of us, we'll just jump straight. We can hike the mountain, we can climb the mountain, depending on our choices. Does the spirit needs to go through every single challenge to grow? No, right? Can I learn with somebody else's story, lives? Of course. Sometimes we, especially with parents, sometimes our parents are looking at us, they're talking to us, and they say, "Don't do that. It's not gonna work." And sometimes we say that to our kids. You see that it's not gonna work, and you tell them it's not gonna work, and then they say, "It doesn't work for you, but for me it's gonna work. I know better." And then you start praying. You start praying to be wrong for the first time in your life. You're like, "Oh my God, may this kid be right." Right? We love so much that we wish that for this time. But sometimes we see that that way is not going to be. Are we prepared to love so much to allow this kid to take the longer eternity? Then, a spirit that reaches a certain degree, look, there's no more trials anymore. Then the spirits that get to a certain point, they say, I don't consider this a trial anymore. For me, it's an opportunity. I'm going to learn whatever it is, and let me learn fast so I can move on, right? Some of us keep going through the same experience on and on and on because we don't learn the lesson, so it keeps repeating itself, right? That relationships that starts in our family, it comes back in our school, it comes back at work, it comes back keeps coming back because we didn't learn to deal with that relationship. We didn't learn to love enough. But at a certain point, the spirit gets to this enlightenment, let's say this, that it doesn't need to endure these trials anymore. The spirits always, and this doesn't matter where we are in our evolutionary spiral there, the spirits always has non-suffering duties, helping each other. Helping each other is so addictive and it makes us feel so well that is hard to explain in words unless we do it. We have to take this action. That's why Spiritism says outside of charity there's no salvation. Right? We help each other and we feel good. So we help others climb until we get to that peak. But then, as Arthur said in his lecture on Sunday, he said, Jesus put us this teaching. Be perfect as our Father is, as God is. So he introduces a loop, because as soon as we get to that peak of that mountain, what can we see? The next peak, the next mountain, right? And as we grow, as the spirit evolves, the problems or the challenges or the opportunities will become more complex. Right? Isn't it how it works at school? You start with addition, multiplication, and all of a sudden you are in this algebra, you are doing physics, you're trying to understand how the world works. It's constantly getting more complex. But at the same time, the spirit is getting happier and happier, right? The discoveries that we are doing in our lives are making us grow faster and faster. So I brought you guys a message from Chico Xavier, that he's going to, once we get to this peak, right? We understand that in terms of changes, the spiritual mentors, he says, teach me that I must not forget those relating primarily to improve myself. Getting to the next mountain, getting to the next peak, bringing others with me, accepting the help that comes from the ones who are before us, who know more than us, who love more than us. Studying these examples of life, learning how in each detail, in each moment, how did Jesus dealt with what was happening to him. For some, he told to, like to Joanna of Cusa, he was like, love. She wanted to leave her family, her husband. And he said, go back home and love him. For others, he was like, come with me. Leave everything you have and come with me. No, I can't. I can't leave everything I have. The medications, the advices, the teachings are personal, are for each one of us in that moment of life where we are. We will find the answer. We will find how to deal, the recipe of how to deal with that life moment, and constantly growing, right? He always was pulling and pushing us to do our best. And one thing that I always thought, that when we look at all the apostles, the 13 with Paul of Tarsus, if we look at all of them and we study their personalities, we all have a little bit of them with us, right? From the failing Judas, who didn't understand at all, to Paul that was crazy, going places, bringing this message. Oh, he said he owed to everybody. to bring this message to everybody. To Peter, who was right the head of this beautiful church in terms of ecclesia. So we all have this. We all have St. Thomas that didn't believe, that had to touch things to believe. We all had this affection that John had, this love that John had for everyone. In each one of them, if we look in the all of them together, we all have a little bit of them, right? And one thing that I was thinking, when Judas took his life after he realized what he did, he was the first one that Jesus went after, right? So no matter where we are in that spiral, no matter how bad it is, we will be helped. Help is all around us. Love is unconditional, and it is all around us and inside us. It is our work, it is our duty to open up in terms of our hearts, our minds, our actions, right? To bring all this that is already there. Jesus said it's the kingdom of God is in our hearts, right? So may this kingdom shine in every single one of us. May we come home inspired to be better people, to be better mothers, parents, brothers, sisters, children, right? And may He all bless us tonight. Thank you so much. Sorry, guys, I'm back. So we're going to go through. Rafaela is doing the translation, so I'm going to go through the messages tonight. We have these study cycles. I guess most of you are already part of it. You had one or two, or been here for years, doesn't matter. But the classes happen in Portuguese every Sunday morning from 9:30 to 11, Wednesdays at 8 from 8 to 9:30, and Thursdays from 7 to 8:30. And then we have the English classes on Sunday, 9:30, and Wednesdays at 8. On Wednesdays, we are doing the study of Missionaries of the Light from Francisco Cândido Xavier, the Spirit André Luiz. And on Sundays, we are studying, as I told you guys, the Spirit's book. So these are the classes that we're going to have, that we are having this semester. And from today's Thursday already, and Saturday. I think this is, it says Sunday here, but it's going to be on Saturday. Blessed are the poor in spirit. It's going to be Rosana Nunes, Saturday at 11:30. Saturdays we also have the youth group and the children's lab for theater, songs. And then on Sunday, we're going to have Marcia Rigonati with collective disincarnation. This is one type of trial, very special, that very, I guess, today's news, right? And on Sunday, our lunch is going to be this beef Madeira sauce with mushroom, jasmine rice, potato salad, and bread. Now we're going to go through the passes. We're going to have first the prayer to finish our work, and you can remain seated. You will be called for the passes. The people who are in treatment will be called to go to the back room. Okay? So I invite you all to close your eyes, just for us to be able to connect better with the spirits that are here in this room. Allowing this energy to involve us, to balance us, to harmonize us in this sensation, in this gratitude, this moment of gratitude where we touch ourselves